Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, chang, chang, chang. Y'all know what we're doing. Chain the fool, y'all. Gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gents, Aretha, let them know. Because they don't understand. They can't get it, Aretha. This is an Aretha morning, y'all. Let them know, woman. Tell them how it is. She's saying it's a shame, ladies and gentlemen. That's Aretha Franklin, y'all. Tell them, girl. I just wish these individuals who brought us up with their songs such as this, y'all, would have had it better. I just wish that they didn't have to struggle as much as they've had to struggle to get to where they are. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to eventually talk about business taxes because many of y'all are going to have to get involved in business taxes, okay? But right now, let's do this, y'all, so that y'all get it. We got a conversation we need to have. And I'm going to turn down my young lady. I need you to explain to me what presumption of law is. Question mark. Stop listening. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I had the mic off right here. I'm going to turn that back on so you
They
guys
shift the
can
burden
hear.
of proof to the party against whom the presumption operates. For instance, in a case of a negotiable instrument, there is a presumption that consideration has been paid.
Be quiet. Be quiet. Okay. Watch
Presumption of law refers to a principle that allows the court to assume a fact is true until evidence is presented to the contrary. In legal proceedings, presumptions of law play a crucial role in shaping the burden of proof. There are two main types of legal presumptions. Conclusive, irrebuttable, presumptions. These are presumptions that cannot be contradicted by any evidence. Once the basic facts are established, the presumed fact must be accepted as true. For example, a child under a certain age, often 7, is conclusively presumed to be incapable of committing a crime. Rebuttable presumptions.
Impossible.
These presumptions are accepted as true until disproved. They shift the burden of proof to the party against whom the presumption operates. For instance, in a case of a negotiable instrument, there is a presumption that consideration has been paid. However, this presumption can be rebutted by evidence to the contrary. The use of presumptions is a practical tool to deal with situations where certain facts are typically difficult to prove, or where it is reasonable, based on common experience or statute, to presumption of law refers to a principle that
Shut up. Okay. Now let's take care of something. Wake up. Wake up. So what you're saying is that there is no law or authority for presumption of law. Question mark. That presumption of law is just a policy, comma, and is not supported by the Constitution. Question mark. The fact that an individual is presumed innocent, comma, does not make presumption of law the standard. Exclamation mark. Presumption of law is a misnomer, comma, it actually works contrary to due process of law and equal protection of law. Exclamation mark. For no one may be held to answer for any crime without due process. And due process and presumption of law do not operate in the same arena. Exclamation mark. Presumption of law is jurisdictional and may be challenged at any time, comma, for it is a standard and not a law. Exclamation mark. Stop listening. Ladies and gentlemen, what I have just done is I have just explained why none of you can get anywhere in the courts, because you don't realize presumption of law, that they're making presumptions. If you go ahead and listen to the videos that I do, I am going after their presumptions. I refer to myself as the presumption killer.
Your perspective highlights a nuanced understanding of the relationship between presumptions in law and constitutional principles like due process and equal protection. It's important to clarify several aspects. Presumption of innocence. This is indeed a fundamental principle in criminal law, rooted in the constitutional guarantee of due process. The presumption of innocence serves as a safeguard against wrongful conviction, placing the burden of proof on the prosecution. This principle, however, is distinct from general presumptions of law used in various legal contexts. Constitutional basis. While specific presumptions of law are not explicitly detailed in the Constitution, they are derived from and must comply with constitutional principles. For example, statutory presumptions must not infringe upon constitutional rights such as due process. The U.S. Supreme Court often reviews presumptions, especially in criminal cases, for their alignment with constitutional guarantees. Jurisdictional challenges. You are correct that certain presumptions, particularly in procedural contexts, can be jurisdictional. They might be challenged if they infringe upon a party's rights to a fair trial or due process. The courts are vigilant in ensuring that such...
Wake up. You lied. Comma, you said the courts are vigilant in ensuring that individuals' rights are not infringed upon, comma, and that presumptions do not override constitutional standards, comma, when the very first thing the courts do is allow the prosecution to bring forth nothing but presumptions in starting a case, comma, and then violate the rights of the accused by having them submit to the court's jurisdiction through either entering a plea, which admits the genius of the record and waives the right to challenge jurisdiction, comma, and making an appearance, which equates to submitting to the court's jurisdiction, exclamation mark. You also stated that, open quote, close quote, comma, the standard against wrongful conviction is the burden of proof, comma, and presumption of law allows for there to be presented to a jury the so-called presumption of, open quote, beyond all reasonable doubt, close quote, which is not a constitutional standard, but again, a policy, comma, and again, this is jurisdictional and not constitutional, comma. Stop arguing with me and stop trying to convince me of something being a fact when there is no evidence of presumption of law being the law, exclamation mark. Stop listening. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue this conversation because I have a meeting in a minute, like I said.
I apologize for any misunderstanding.
He's going to correct us.
Let's clarify the points you've raised. Jurisdiction and pleas. It is true that the legal process often begins with the accused being required to enter a plea, and this act can be seen as submitting to the court's jurisdiction. The nuances of how entering a plea or making an appearance interacts with questions of jurisdiction and the preservation of rights are complex and can vary depending on the specific legal context and jurisdiction.
No, it doesn't.
Presumption of innocence and burden of proof. The presumption of innocence is indeed a fundamental aspect of criminal law, and it places the burden of proof on the prosecution.
No, it doesn't.
This standard requires the prosecution to prove the defendant's guilt, beyond a reasonable doubt, in a criminal trial. While the phrase, beyond a reasonable doubt, is not explicitly stated in the Constitution, it has been upheld by the U.S.
Doesn't matter
Supreme Court is a critical component of due process under the 5th and 14th Amendments.
The Supreme Court doesn't make the law.
Constitutional vs. Jurisdictional standards. The distinction between constitutional mandates and jurisdictional procedures is a significant one.
You better believe it
Constitutional standards, like due process, Provide overarching principles that legal
All right,
procedures
ladies and
must adhere
gentlemen,
to.
be quiet. What I'll do is I will send you guys this link, but I gotta go. Okay? So y'all has a Coke and a smile. Give me a while, and I'll get this to you. Arrivederci, y'all.